Hello, this is Mary Meinhardt with the Wild Ones St. Charles chapter. I'm the secretary of the group, and I want to introduce you to our speaker tonight. Mary Shoenholz will give us a nice overview of the pre-settlement native landscape in Missouri. Mary and her husband Ken are very active in a number of wildlife organizations, and they have a wonderful prairie both in their front yard and their backyard. This video will be posted on our St. Charles area Wild Ones Facebook page for members only. And if you have questions afterwards, you will be able to email Mary, and that information will be provided at the end of her presentation. Thank you very much for attending. And Mary, thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mary, for the great intro. I would like to say hi and welcome everybody. I want to share with you the formation of the Missouri landscape prior to the European settlement. These are a few of the pictures that we've taken of the butterflies and insects from the planting in our front yard. And the picture on the far left is a zebra swallowtail, which we were very excited to see. We'd never really seen one before we had made this planting. The middle picture is a picture of the hummingbird clear wing, which is on common milkweed. And that is another insect that we had never known about until we made this native planting. Because when it's in your front yard, these are in our front yard. When it's in your front yard, it's a lot easier to kind of keep track of what's going on out there rather than if it's, you know, in your backyard. And then the last picture on the far right is, of course, a monarch on their favorite plant, one of their favorite plants, and that is butterfly milkweed. So the few things that I want to go over tonight or today is our plant heritage. So we're going to see how Missouri became one of the states with tall grass prairies. The next thing is the benefits of gardening with natives. Now I want to share with you the many insects, birds, frogs, and lizards you will experience. It's kind of like the movie, if you build it, it will come, and it really will come. The birds will come and you'll see all kinds of butterflies. The habitat, Missouri is considered a transitional zone between the western prairies and the eastern forest. Because of this, we have several habitats in our state. Why natives? I want to share with you the pictures of the wildlife that comes to our plantings in the front yard. And facts of fiction is more like sharing some of the misconceptions of native plants. So during the geographical period ending approximately 12,000 years ago, glaciers covering northern Missouri pushed south to the Missouri River. And you can see on this map here that not only Missouri, but there's several other states there that had the glacier drift. And there are several different glaciers that came down this far. And if you're interested, there's several reference materials that you can go see all the different glacier drifts that came down. So the pre-settlement prairies. First of all, this map really shows you how much of the United States was in some form of prairie. In the dark green, you can see tall grass prairies, which include us. And then the lighter green is the mixed prairies. And then farther west is short grass prairies. And if you see the notation at the bottom, it says there different types of prairies are dependent on the amount of rainfall. So of course, the tall grass prairies, we in Missouri and anybody that gets the tall grass prairies gets quite a bit of rain. So it gets probably on an average of between 40 and 50 inches per year. So the tall grass prairies once stretched from southern Manitoba all to Oklahoma. You can see on the map there. Together with the short grass and grass prairies, it was the continent's largest continuous ecosystem and was home to thousands of species, including large herds of bison, elk, and antelope. Tall grass prairies takes its name from the dominant grasses in the region, namely big bluestem, Indian, and switchgrass. These tall grass prairies were 6 to 8 feet tall. Across its range, the herbaceous components of this habitat is composed of approximately 80% grasses and 20% forbs and flowers, approximately 300 different species. On the mixed grass prairies, it can range in height to ankle deep to waist deep because they are in this transition zone between the tall grass and the short grass prairies. Mixed grass prairies have a greater number of plant species than any other type of prairie. In the yellow there, the short grass prairies are dominated by blue grama and buffalo grass, and it ranges in height from 12 to 15 inches. So Missouri tall grass prairies, well before the end of the 17th century, the French had written prairie on their maps and had named prairies around the St. Louis area. 50% of St. Louis City and County area was prairie. The name prairie comes from the French word for grassy meadow. Prairies were one of the most distinctive aspects of our landscape. There were 18,484 square miles, or approximately 30% of Missouri, was prairie when the settlers arrived. Today, only 1% of our original prairies remain. Now, I found something that's very interesting, and you might want to take the time to do this. On the St. Louis Wild Ones chapter webpage, they have maps of the St. Louis County and City with the designated prairies that were identified by the French. And they have some of the names of the prairies were Prairie de St. Louis, La Grande Prairie, La Prairie Cul-de-sac, sorry. So you might want to check out that website because it's really got some interesting facts in there. So in 1815 to 1855, the United States General Land Office began surveying and mapping out each square mile in Missouri. The General Land Office, or GLO, was responsible for identifying the following: tracts of land for purchase during the westward movement, and they were 1 square mile tracts. Recording specific information about each one of the tracts, terrain such as rivers, springs, lakes, prairies, swamps, plants, and caves. There's many different specific things that they looked at, minerals, anything that looked like an anomaly on the land, they would make notes of that. So the pre-settlement prairie, this is a map Walter Schroeder researched for 12 years to create. And he got this, provided this map from the notes of the U.S. General Land Office. He's actually a professor at State of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri State in Columbia. And he would travel down to Jeff City, which isn't very far from Columbia, and he would go through all of the notes that was provided. Those notes reside at the Missouri State Capitol Library. He went through 650 volumes of field notes covering over 115,000 linear miles. And he finished the map in 1981. And I just thought it was pretty incredible that he's so dedicated to provide this map and how he went through all of these notes. So there are different types of tall grass prairies. Missouri has 12 types of tall grass prairies, and they are described based on soil substrate, loess, glacier till, limestone, dolomite, chert, sandstone, shade, sand, which reflects the location in Missouri. The soil moisture, dry mesic, swale, hard pan, wet mesic, and wet. And then the landscape position. Is it upland or bottomland? So the types of tall grass prairies in general, of the 12, they can boil it down to 5. So the 5 general kinds of prairies that are found in Missouri are loess prairies, glaciated prairies, unglaciated prairies, sand prairies, and wet prairies. Loess Hill Prairie is Missouri's steep slope loess hill prairies occur in the extreme northwest corner of the state, along the Missouri River, floodplains, and other streams. Loess is ancient, fine-grained, wind-blowing soil, and this fertile soil underlies most of northern Missouri. In northwestern Missouri, it forms magnificent hills raising more than 200 feet above the nearby land. Glaciated prairie. Missouri's glaciated till prairies are primarily found in the glaciated plains region north of the Missouri River. These rolling prairies typically have deep, well-drained, highly fertile soils formed by the loess and other historical glacial deposits. These fertile soils were especially attractive to farmers at the time of the European settlement So most of these prairies were long ago converted into crop fields for agricultural production. The unglaciated prairie. The unglaciated prairies found south of the Missouri River were not formed by glacial soil deposits. Thus, are generally shallower than those on the northern prairies, often exhibiting exposed bedrock. This is the most common remaining prairie type because it's rocky and relatively infertile soil have protected it from conversion to agriculture. Sand prairie. Sand prairies exist on natural levees and terrace with very little sloping. Soils tend to be well drained, very deep, low in nutrients and organic matter. In Missouri, sand prairie habitat is restricted to areas bordering the Mississippi River in only the southeastern and northeastern regions of Missouri. Even in these areas, high quality sand prairies are rare. Less than 2,000 acres remain in southeast Missouri. Wet prairies. Wet prairies often border marshes are associated with floodplains. Lower slopes of prairies are areas with groundwater seepage. They have saturated soils through much of the growing season due to the high clay content. And they have seasonally high water tables and standing water present during the spring and winter are after heavy rains. They occur in the glaciated plains and Osage plains. So what is a native? Natives are plants that were growing in North America prior to the European settlement. And native plants include trees, grasses, shrubs, vines, roses, flowers, sedges, and rushes. So Missouri is considered the transition zone between the western prairies and the eastern forest. And if you think about driving out west, and you're going to mostly see conifer trees. And the top five type of trees in the western states are blue spruce, lodgepole pine, Quakering aspens, white fir, and Douglas fir. So when you think about coming out of the western states into Missouri, you know, we have both deciduous and conifer trees. So we are more like the melting pot of going from the western states to the eastern forest. So Missouri has 5 major habitats. We have prairies, forests and woodlands, glades, wetlands, and savannas. So here's a picture of the prairie that is in the back of our property. Very nice. Prairies are native grasslands dominated by warm season grasses and perennial forbs with very few trees, less than 10%. Forest habitat, forests have a closed canopy permitting very little light to penetrate to the ground below. There are often several overlapping layers of trees with a mid-story and understory comprising a variety of shade-tolerant shrubs and a sparse layer of soft stem plants. Now, in the pre-settlement woodland, you wouldn't have forests like we have today. And that's because most of the ground was burnt to control the prairies. The Indians burnt people are saying, well, it could be the Indians that burnt it because they wanted to. But then some people say, well, it was only because of lightning. So take your pick, but we mostly had the short-leaf pine in our region. So the pre-settlement landscape did not have forest. As I mentioned, we had woodlands. Woodlands are a low-density forest farming open habitat with plenty of sunlight and limited shade, consisting of some oaks and hickory, but the dominant tree was the short-leaf pines, which is our only native pine. And most of these were cut down for railroad ties and for building homes. So the glade habitat, glades are open, rocky areas usually located amid upland woodlands. They're high location, thin soil, exposed rocks, few trees, and south or west facing aspect makes them hot and dry. Plants and animals adapt to our glades. Plants and animals to our glades will remind you of the desert or of prairies. I know if you go to a glade like this, oftentimes you'll see a lot of lizards running around. A wetland habitat are a transition zone between land and aquatic environments, and they protect the quality of both. A rich variety of plants and animals live in wetlands. And savannas. This picture was taken at Charles Arboretum, and this is a pale purple cone out in a field with trees. So savannas are grasslands interspersed with open grown scattered trees or a grouping of trees. They are strongly associated with prairies and are dominated by prairie grasses and forbs. The canopy cover is usually less than 30%. So native plants is really a holistic gardening. And the reason that I say that is because there's so many benefits to gardening with natives. So it takes care of the soil, takes care of the butterflies and insects around it. And it's just visually appealing. So native plants have the ability to pull and store excess carbon, prevent water runoff, and microscopic organisms in the soil. They have very deep root system up to 15 feet. Soil rich in organic matter from the decomposition of plant material. And I read while putting this together that approximately 30% of the roots die off every year and are regrown. That doesn't mean the plant's dying. That's just the way the course of the life of the plant is. It attracts wildlife, and there's no need for fertilization or pesticides. And this is just a map that shows how deep these roots actually are going. And this very first little plant over here on the far left, that's your normal Kentucky bluegrass. And the roots go down, you know, maybe an inch. And the plant next to them is lead plant. And that goes all the way down to 14 feet, as well as the compass plant. So, I mean, the roots are just incredible. So the benefits of gardening with natives, our favorite part of it is the wildlife attraction. So the birds, for the seeds, the goldfinches, the sparrows, we say mini LBBs, which is little brown birds, that there's so many, you know, you really have to get a book out to figure out which bird is what. Cardinals, warblers, nectar, hummingbirds and orioles, for sure. We all know that. But in reading in the Audubon Society, they also say mockingbirds, grosbeaks, tanagers, and there's 40 other birds that enjoy the nectar. Insects. Carolina and house wrens, bluebirds, and black-capped chickadees all are come to this planting for insects. There's a lot of insects. I need to be more well-versed in all of the different ones, but this is what attracts those birds. Then the different types of insects are the butterflies. Many native plants are the host plants for monarch and swallowtails, like common milkweed, butterfly, milkweed. There's several other milkweeds. Bees, of course, the pollinators, wasps, prey on pest insects populations and help keep them under control. So like the aphids, the wasps like to eat them. Beetles, pollinators, and eat plant debris. Dragonflies eat hundreds of mosquitoes each day, and spiders also eat aphids. So when you look at there and you think about this slide, just think about everything going on that you may or may not be able to see in your garden. So another benefit is the maintenance. You know, once it's established, natives are drought tolerant because two-thirds of the plant are its roots. They're winter hardy. Most natives are perennials. They grow and thrive in very poor soil, and they're less prone to destructive insects and disease. So why natives? So here's a picture of our front planting. Many different species of milkweed. We have on the whole edge, we have the grass there you can see is prairie dropseed. We also have a lot of common milkweed for the monarchs. And of course, the hummingbirds. So this is more like late June when you'll see this kind of blooming. So again, here we have on the left, we have a golden finch, which is a year-round bird at our house. This particular one, you can see the flowers are all dead. He's actually eating from a rough blazing star, the seeds out of a rough blazing star. We do leave our plants up in the wintertime, so all of the birds can get the seeds. And then, of course, on the right is one of our hummingbirds on royal catchfly, which is probably one of my favorite plants. One of the things that we found when we planted our first prairie, our large native planting, was the picture on the left is a picture of a female blue indigo. And of course, she looks nothing like the male, but they actually nest in prairies. So here she is in our front prairie, bringing an insect, and I don't think you can see that in her mouth, but she has an insect in her mouth, and she's taking that down to her nest. They make a nest that's fairly close to the ground. So hopefully there's not too many cats roaming around. This next one is a Phoebe, and he's just out there looking for insects to eat. The funny thing about those birds and flycatchers, which they're flycatcher family, is we got 3 acres, and when Ken mows the grass, they kind of like follow him. I guess he's kicking up insects or something with the lawn tractor, and they are just going after those bugs. Now here is a goldfinch, and this is a springtime. He's eating Ohio horsemint, which they love. And they even get on that plant when it's got a flower on it and the seeds aren't even there yet. So I guess that's when he's getting some kind of nectar. Now on the right, again, you can see he's on the purple comb, which they devour. So here we were fortunate enough to see our tiger swallowtails, 2 of them on one plant. A lot of different kinds of butterflies out that come to our plantings. Also, here's a couple of dragonflies that we see. I am not real familiar with the names of dragonflies, but they come around and eat those nasty mosquitoes. This picture here, this is the front yard planting. It's pretty large. And our native pruners come in the springtime. And this is the springtime. You can see the plants are very small yet. And they come in and prune down the phloxes. They love phlox, garden phlox. They also chew down the aster. that we have. And then they kind of just browse around and take the tops off of a couple of purple cone. But they really enjoy eating the asters and the phlox. We were fortunate enough last year, after being planted for 4 years, we actually got to see our phlox for the first time. So they missed 2 plants and we actually got to see them bloom. So it was very nice. So here we are, and here's our fact, our fiction. So are all wildflowers native? Are natives considered invasive? Does Missouri have native orchids? And does goldenrod pollen cause hay fever? So are all wildflowers native? That's fiction. There are plenty of roadside flowers that were brought over by our ancestors. For example, Queen Anne's lace, musk, oxeye daisies, Deptford pink. There's a long list of them, but that's just a few that are pretty common. Are natives considered invasive? Fiction. The non-native plants that are endangering our ecosystem currently and are very invasive. Bush honeysuckle, #1 without a doubt. We're constantly getting that out of our prairies. Russian olive, Bradford pear, which is another one that we have to constantly fight out of the prairie. Garlic mustard and purple loosestrife. We don't have too much of that. So hopefully people will stop buying Bradford pears. That would be nice, since you can hardly even go down the highway and there's just big groupings of them. It's just really not attractive. So, does Missouri have native orchids? And that is a fact. And I found this very interesting. Missouri has 35 orchid species, while Hawaii only has 3. 16 of our 35 orchids are listed on the rare and endangered list, mostly because of habitat loss. The Conservation Department does have a book on all of our orchids, which I have. So there's good information in there on that. And actually on the conservation page, webpage itself has a lot of good information about the orchids. So here are a few of the orchids that are native to Missouri. Large yellow lady slippers on the far left, showy lady slippers in the middle, and small white lady slippers on the far right. Just beautiful plants. Here's some more of our orchids. These can be found in prairies, these particular ones on this page. And that is the purple fringeless on the far left, lady trusses in the middle, and grass pink. Which I also thought was interesting, that we have orchids in our prairies. So, does goldenrod pollen cause hay fever? It just continues to be out there. So goldenrod pollen is transferred by insects, as we all know. And ragweed is wind pollinated causing allergies. And if you ever need to see the difference, the ragweed is on the far left, and I think this is a field goldenrod on the right. But somebody mentioned to me, yeah, I always tell the people, if you want to know which one is causing you hay fever, if it's got bees on it, it's not gonna be causing you hay fever. It's the plants that don't have the bees on them. So that is the end of my presentation. And I want to thank you, Mary, for giving me the opportunity to share with you and others the benefits of gardening with natives.
And Mary, thank you very much. I really loved seeing your beautiful prairie and all the plants in your prairie. Now, I'm going to suggest something that I haven't talked with you about yet, but we do have a few new members who may see this presentation. I know you have opened your prairies up to us and your new water feature, for that matter, in the past. If some of those new members happen to see this presentation and would love to see your prairie this summer, would you be open to them just sending you an email and introducing themselves and checking with you about a good time this summer to come and see your property?
Oh, sure.
Okay, well, when I post this video to our private members only Facebook page, I'll go ahead and put your email down, and they'll have to wait until the end of the video before they see the invitation to come to your place. Okay. I thank you very much. And all you wild ones out there, come and join us at our next meeting, the second Thursday of each month. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.